absolutely. Walk me through the diligence process on the operation side, some of the things that you would look at, some of the considerations that you were focused on, and the timeline that you were put under in some of these things. I know in the deals we work on, it's like, hey, we've got this thing we want to review. You've got, 3 days or whatever. We're like, okay,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
that's a lot to
I,
look at. But yeah, talk about some of the diligence on the operation side.
yeah. I'm trying to remember here, man. It was kind of similar, Max. It was like, it was so quick, it was like, hey, we've decided we're going to pursue this, and we have 2 weeks to essentially, evaluate this entire company and all 3,000 wells that they have and all,
And it's like
you know,
a $1 billion type acquisition, or what were the
exactly.
size
Yeah.
of these? Yeah.
Yeah. So it was crazy. And so I remember, there were weeks where I was just telling my wife this here recently, but there was weeks I would have 35 plus appointments on my calendar, double and triple booked, as you're trying to do your day job and keep operations going for the company you're working for. You're sitting in on due diligence calls, evaluating companies you're looking at, and so it got to be pretty cumbersome. It's as far as things that we were looking at, it was kind of nice in a way because we knew the companies. There was some familiarity because we operated in the same spots. But we were looking at, you know, basically on the operations side, hey, what are you guys doing in these situations? Validating lifting costs, and understanding if they were saying the lifting cost was more than we would expect for that type of a well, what were they doing differently, what costs were added on there, and trying to get those things reconciled. Because on the valuation side, if we needed to consider that and change and add capital costs or workover costs or things to change whatever, that needed to be put into the model. So, but these things were so quick, Max. It was pretty crazy. When you're thinking about the scale that you're operating on, it was pretty crazy how fast and how fluid those things were.
What about the transition to bring all that in house? You mentioned going out on the site and being like,
Mm.
okay, what's going on out here? You've got thousands of wells. There's just got to be the transition pain of making all that happen, right?
Oh, it was really tough. And I mean, we really struggled because we made that first deal and we brought in, and I would say our cultures with the company that we acquired first were, night and day. It was very different. And so when we're bringing in those people from that company, we didn't even get we were only a month into, any transition process when we announced our next deal. So now you're, going back, you're doing your day job, you're trying to transition people into your company and into your culture from this company you just acquired. You're also doing due diligence on the next deal and thinking about what that looks like, and so it got to be a lot. I you know we learned, probably the one thing that we learned or that I took away from this whole process was, you'd like to think that you can create a culture when you do these deals, and that you're like, oh, we're going to come together and we're going to create the culture of this company. And I think we learned that there's always a dominant culture, and everything else assimilates to that. And it's pretty interesting as you start to transition things together and bring everything in house and bring together people from 3, 4, 5 different companies. You learn there's a dominant culture, and then you either get on board with that or not. I mean, it's pretty black and white, and so kind of interesting as you navigate those things. And I think others would agree with that.